And welcome back to the NFLandU podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hayden Vassar. It's a Friday, January 31st, and this is it, folks. We finally made it to the big dance. And what a big dance we have this year. Chiefs and 49ers in Super Bowl 54. It's a matchup of the highest caliber. I've been drooling over this matchup for weeks. It is sure to be a great one. We'll get into all that in a little bit when we get into the final preview of the season towards the end of the show. We'll also have some fun with prop bets, talk some news, and a returning segment later in the show. All that and more on a super duper ultra mega supersized edition of the NFL and You podcast Super Bowl extravaganza. Trademark coming at you live. I really don't know where I was going with that. I really went off script there. Before I get into the news, though, personal pet peeve I've noticed throughout the week, because, all the media members, they're slowly, getting into Miami, where the Super Bowl is this year at Hard Rock Stadium. Throughout the course of the week, a good chunk of them got there Monday and the rest started arriving throughout the week. And it is just so humorous to hear these media people talk about Miami because they always start it the same way. Every single one of them will start it the same way. I mean no disrespect to Houston and Minneapolis when I say this, but Miami is the best Super Bowl city I've been to. Every single one of them starts it with no disrespect to the previous cities and then just proceeds to go, they don't got nothing on Miami. Almost every single one without fail. If you notice, it's all those media members that are like the 30 and under crowd that are going out and partying every night after they do their live hits for the TV or write their article. They are having the time of their lives in Miami this week. I mean, and good for them. At least it's not, Minneapolis in January or like that terrible one they had in Arlington, Texas in 2011 when the snow fell off the stadium. At least people are enjoying some nice sunny weather in January in Miami, am I right? So that's my little pet peeve I've noticed throughout the week is that these media members are literally frothing at the mouth to talk about how great Miami is for the Super Bowl. It's just so stupid. Oh, this is going to be a tough transition. I just looked at my notes. This is going to be very tough. Oh, okay. So, I'm going to try and calm it down here because this deserves to be taken seriously. Okay. We're going to start with some news first, as tradition dictates, as we always do. And first up, we have some sad news this Super Bowl week, as it was announced on Wednesday morning, if you hadn't heard. Wednesday morning, that Hall of Fame defensive end, Chris Dolman, passed away late Tuesday night at the age of 58 after a lengthy battle with cancer. Dolman was a first-round draft pick for the Minnesota Vikings in 1985. He would go on to play 9 seasons for the Minnesota Vikings. After those 9 seasons, he left the team and spent the 1994 to 1995 seasons with the Atlanta Falcons. And then, once he left the Falcons, he went to the 49ers, where he played from 1996 till 1998 with the 49ers. Then after all that, he re-signed with the Vikings so he could retire as a Minnesota Viking. He finished his career with 150.5 sacks, so 150 and a half sacks. Interestingly enough, 22 of those sacks came during the 1989 season. So that's a pretty major milestone. Very few players in NFL history have ever come close to doing something like that. So he also retired with 8 interceptions and 3 touchdowns, and Dolman was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2012 as a Viking. So he will be sorely missed. So a very sad note for this Super Bowl week to start out. Chris Dolman passed away at the age of 58. And moving on to our next bit of news. And this is also some very serious news, which I am now heavily regretting starting with the honey haha joke about Miami. Because the beginning of this podcast, I plan to be very serious and about some certain topics, especially this one. And this one requires a very gentle touch because it's about some very serious topics. And if you haven't heard about this news story we're about to talk about, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it because it really hasn't been reported on that much. I like to think I'm fairly plugged into the NFL news circle, and I've really only noticed one outlet reporting about this story. In fact, that only outlet I'm talking about is the Associated Press. Is the only place I've seen talk about this story. In fact, it's really bothering me how no one is talking about this. And if you haven't heard what I'm mentioning towards, it's that last Friday, so about 7 days ago at this point, the Associated Press released a report saying that the New Orleans Saints apparently had been emailing the Archbishop or Archdiocese, I've been getting them mixed up all day, of New Orleans, and was helping them with handling PR work in the wake of their wake of allegations of sexual abuse by the Archdiocese or Archbishop of New Orleans. I know I'm getting it mixed up. Don't blame me. You can go read the report to get it all straightened out. Anyway, so that was last Friday. That the report that the Saints had offered some kind of PR help, and they weren't sure to what degree, and that there were emails out there about this said PR help, and that the Saints were sending lawyers to court to help ensure that the emails don't get out into the public. That was just the gist of it from last Friday. And the Saints were going to court, like I said, to keep it from coming out in the public. But the Saints, eventually released a statement saying, the emails aren't anything bad. There was just simple public relations stuff. We just told them to be honest and transparent. That's all they say. Even though we're going to court to make sure these emails don't get out in the public, they're not anything bad. Don't worry, guys, is basically what the Saints tried to assure us of. Then the story escalates. It doesn't just stop there. This past Thursday, so yesterday, another report from the Associated Press, they're not letting this story go, alleging that the Saints had some sort of involvement in a list of allegations against priests. So from the way I understood it from reading the story is that the church was supposed to compile some sort of list of priests that have been facing allegations of sexual abuse towards children, and that the Saints apparently had some hand in helping create the list, is from what I'm to understand from the story. Here's a quote from the AP article. You ready for this? Quote, in order to fulfill this role, the Saints must have known the specific allegations of sexual abuse against a priest, and made a judgment call about whether those allegations by a particular victim against a named priest were, in its opinion, legitimate enough to warrant being included. The attorneys wrote. They added, and it continues, it cannot now be disputed that the Saints had actual involvement in the creation of the pedophile list. End quote. I know. That's pretty heavy stuff the AP is reporting. And that's the little snippet from the report that I copied and pasted. It is becoming crystal clear, though, in all seriousness, that the Saints didn't just offer simple PR advice like they alleged, but in fact helped mold the defense, you could say, of child molesters. They essentially helped kind of mold the defense. You could seriously look at it like that. The article then goes on, the second report by the AP, to try and start connecting some dots, like the Saints owner is a devout Catholic, and she's apparently close friends with the Archdiocese or Archbishop. I know I'm getting it mixed up, and I should have corrected it, but anyway, that the Saints owner is apparently close friends with that person, so maybe there's something there. And it goes on to name a certain other thing, so please go read it if you can find the time. Now, I'm not going to start slinging mud and start naming names. That's why I didn't name the Saints owner or anybody specific. And I'm not going to disparage an entire religion. I'm not going to just come out and condemn all Catholics, because that's definitely not the answer right now. But I will say, though, that the Saints are quickly losing the benefit of the doubt in this situation. Because they stand accused of helping to cover up child sexual abuse. Now, I gotta say, they didn't. The Saints haven't broken any laws. That's not what I'm saying. It's just really bad looking, is what I'm saying. This is. They haven't broken a single law. They didn't help facilitate the molesting of children. They just helped to potentially defend child molesters, is what it sounds like. Is what the AP is reporting. Now, the AP also reported that the lawyers of those that are suing, the church in New Orleans, are saying that the pedophile list that they keep calling it in the article that the Saints have allegedly helped create was about 20 names too short, and that they undersold the problem, and that they kept other problem-riddled priests. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it like that. Child-abusing priests, better way to say it, off the list. And like I said, the Saints are quickly losing the benefit of the doubt in this situation. At first, they said we just did simple PR advice. Now that's out the window. But I will say, though, that there is no defense for what the Saints or the Catholic Church are accused of doing. Don't defend child abusers. Don't defend child molesters. It's really not that hard, people. But I will say, though, that I think the Saints have a brilliant PR strategy. After the initial AP report, the Saints, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, the Saints said that they told the Catholic Church in New Orleans to be honest, clear, and transparent. That's what our PR advice was in those emails. And that's also why we don't want those emails to get out into the public. Yeah, it seems simple, right? Well, New Orleans Saints, I think you need to listen to your own advice in this situation. If it really is true that you really did nothing wrong and that there's nothing shady going on here, then prove it. Be honest, clear, and transparent, am I right? Release those emails and let the public be the judge. Because, you said you did nothing wrong, so you got nothing to hide, right? I'm just saying, New Orleans. Because the longer you sit in court and you send those little lawyers out to fight tooth and nail to keep those emails from coming out, New Orleans Saints, the worse it looks. The badder it's going to get. It's a very bad look, and it erodes your credibility further and further, New Orleans Saints. You're sitting in a very, very bad position that you don't want to be caught in. There's no getting around that. Be honest, clear, and transparent, New Orleans. Unless you really do have something to hide. That's the only reason why you shouldn't be honest, clear, and transparent. If you're hiding something. Like, defending child molesters. Now, this story is far from over, and I know I got pretty heavy-handed in there, but the AP isn't going to let this story die. That's obvious from their reporting. They're sticking with it, and neither will we. So we'll keep all of you listening up to date as further information becomes available. And I would really like to see the story being covered more, because I've watched wall-to-wall coverage of the NFL Network. I've listened to multiple podcasts talk about the Super Bowl. I've watched ESPN. Not one of them has talked about this. Not one. It's just the AP talking about it, the Associated Press. It's ridiculous. It is really bothering me how nobody is talking about this. It's really crazy, so we'll keep you up to date as further details become available. Lastly, one last thing in news. On Thursday, it's a very, very just down news segment. We got to get some happy news in here. And this isn't much happier. On Thursday, it was announced that Panthers and tight end Greg Olsen have mutually agreed to part ways. That's sad. Greg Olsen's been a Panther for as long as I've been watching football. Olsen has spent 9 years with the Panthers. And in those 9 years, he really was like a safety blanket for the Panthers offense, wasn't he? He was always kind of a Mr. Reliable despite all the injuries that he's had over the years. He's caught over 6,000 receiving yards. I don't know why I said caught. He's had over 6,000 receiving yards in Carolina alone. Remember, he played 4 years before in Chicago, and then he went to Carolina, so he's had a 13-year career. And 39 touchdowns with the Panthers. Now, let's be clear. This isn't a retirement thing. It's not. He hasn't announced he's retiring. He said he still wants to play. He said his heart's still in football, so good for him. He is 34 years old now, so he's getting up there in football age. He's kind of an old man in terms of football years. He says he still wants to play, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do. But here's the thing about Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen has an avenue that most players don't have access to. Greg Olsen has a very blooming and burgeoning TV career ahead of him. He's already called 2 games for Fox so far these past 2 years. He is from what I've watched, he is a wonderful TV personality, very well educated on what he's talking about, and he's engaging and entertaining. This guy is going to be dynamite when he eventually retires. He's not retiring right now, but when he eventually retires, he's going to be dynamite for whoever picks him up. Oh, he is going to be a star. But he still has playing options in front of him. He said he still wants to play. He had a statement earlier today. Like I said, his heart is still in football. But the man has options is what I'm saying. What I'm trying to articulate in this long-winded segment. Greg Olsen has options. So once again, Panthers and tight end Greg Olsen have mutually agreed to part ways. And man, Carolina Panthers are going to be looking awfully different next season. No Greg Olsen, no Luke Kuechly. Cam Newton has to be feeling extra lonely right now. Good Lord. All right, so that's it for news. And I know it got really serious in there, but now we're going to try and have some fun as we are finally getting to the Super Bowl portion of this podcast. And it's time to have one of my favorite segments of every year. Every year when we get to the Super Bowl, there's prop bets. And if you're not a gambler, like me, I'm not a gambler because I have no money. Super Bowl prop bets are simple. They're just these odd things, just these very oddly specific things that people will bet and place money on for the Super Bowl alone. And I don't know why it's only for the Super Bowl. It just is. And every other radio show in the country does it on Friday, so why not us? You know what I'm saying? Now, before we get into this prop bet segment, full disclaimer. This segment is for fun purposes only, and you are not advised to take my advice for gambling. I am not a gambler. I am terrible at gambling. If you gamble off of what I am about to say and do in this show, that is on you, buckaroo. I just ad-lib buckaroo, and I don't know why. That is on you and you only. Okay? Full disclaimer so we don't get sued later. All right, without any further ado, let's get into it. Now, I stole 5 of these things from a CBS.com article about prop bets for the Super Bowl. So we're going to start with something simple. Currently, as of Wednesday morning when I took these notes, currently the over-under for the game is 54.5 points, so 54.5. So, over-under, 54.5 for the final score, combined. It seems that the desert people think it'll be a nice, juicy little scoring affair, which I think we could all get behind, right? Yeah, 54.5. And you know what? I'm going to take the over, just slightly. I'm going to take the over on that one, just slightly. So, over 54.5. So, nice, simple, get things started, so now you get the flow and how things are going with it, okay? Here's where things start getting wonky. Ready? Number 2. Demi Lovato is singing the national anthem for this year's Super Bowl. How long will it take her to sing? The over-under, as of Wednesday morning, 2 minutes. Will she go over or under 2 minutes? I'll give you a second to think about it. I know, I can hear the wheels spinning. How long does it take to sing the national anthem? Well, I got you some help. Last couple national anthem singers, they've clocked in at just under a minute. So I'm going to take the under on this one. We're going to take the under as a group. See if we can't get Demi to clock it in under 2 minutes. Now, you ready for just a truly stupid one? What will the outcome of the coin toss be? Yes, this is an actual prop bet. And yes, people will gamble money on this one. You know, there's some dude out there who's putting down like $1,000 on tails. He's like, come on, man, gotta pay my rent. What will the outcome of the coin toss be, heads or tails? So, here's how we're going to do this, and this is poor planning on my part because I told myself I would get a coin for this segment, and I forgot to get said coin. So, as I scramble mightily to find one at the last possible second. Okay, I found one. I had to reach all the way over to my nightstand to get it. So, here's how we're going to do this, because it's literally a 50-50 shot at at guessing this right. What will the coin toss be at the start of the game? Here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to flip this quarter I have in my hand. Whatever it lands on, this is what we're taking for our prop bet. And let's see if we can get it right. All right, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, I dropped it. Heads! We got heads. Okay. So we're saying the coin toss at the start of the game will be heads. And that's what we're going with as I move stuff back out of my way after I had to get stupid quarter. All right, number 4. I know we're really burning through these. Now let's get overtly specific. You ready for this? Halftime showtime is what we're talking here. Jennifer Lopez and Shakira are performing at halftime. Here's the prop bet. How many wardrobe changes will Jennifer Lopez, just her specifically, Jennifer Lopez have at halftime? How many wardrobe changes will she have throughout her little, 15, 30-minute show? The over-under as of Wednesday morning, 2.5. How many costume changes will J-Lo have at halftime? Now, I will answer honestly as you ponder your answer and you are shouting out. I usually always use the halftime shows as the bathroom break and then the go stretch because I've usually been sitting for like 5 hours straight at that point. And I usually don't watch halftime shows. And I'm not overtly excited about J-Lo and Shakira this year. Now, I'm not going to disparage anybody that looks forward to the halftime show. I know that there is a fair amount of people who watch the Super Bowl for the sole purpose of just the halftime show, and they have no interest in football. I'm not meaning to dunk on those people at all. So, for the sake of argument, I'm going to say that we're going to take the under because there is no reason why you should be doing any more than one costume change for your halftime show. We don't need another repeat of what happened to Janet Jackson. We don't need that. So we'll take the under on that one. All right. And last one. This one is going to require you to do some critical thinking. This one really is going to make you think. Because when I saw it, I quickly had to think off the top of my head. What will be the jersey number of the first player to score a touchdown? Over or under 26.5? And you're thinking, what does that even mean? So the jersey number of the first player to score a touchdown, is it above 26 or below 26 for either team? I know it's oddly specific, and you're thinking, right? You're thinking like Travis Kelce, George Kittle, they're up there in the 80s, right? Then you got the running backs. Oh, God, what are the running backs numbers? And then you suddenly have to panic. Oh, God, what is Tyreek Hill's number? It's oddly specific, and I'm ad-libbing to give you time to think of an answer. I'm going to be honest. I think because of the playmakers that are at the wide receiver positions for both teams, I think the first touchdown will come from a wide receiver. And normally the wide receivers' numbers are above 26, so we're going to take the over. And that's it for prop bets. We killed like 10 minutes. Yay. So that's it for the prop bet section. I know it's asinine and kind of stupid, but I usually enjoy prop bet segments every year from Radio Row. And there are more prop bets out there, like who's going to be the MVP, stuff like that. But we can't do those prop bets, and I can't say my predictions for those without spoiling the preview section later in the show. So big thank you to CBS.com for providing that list. And we're going to move on to our returning segment. Yippee. And this is a disclaimer for this next segment, because when I wrote this, it was Wednesday morning, and I was in my college's library, and it was like 10 a.m., and I was all hopped up on Big Red. So I don't exactly know how this part's going to turn out. I haven't reread it since I wrote it. So we're just going to wing it. All right? It's time for a returning segment. In fact, this returning segment has been sweeping the nation since we debuted it on this show weeks ago. It's time for Let's Get Real, Super Bowl 54 edition. Let's get real, people. This is it. This is the big game that this entire season has been leading towards. Chiefs and 49ers. Two insanely talented teams with youth abound. And they're backed up by great coaching. Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, Scangarilla. I don't think that's the Chiefs defensive coordinator. I don't know why I said his name. Anyway, these are two great teams. That's what I'm getting at. But one of them is going to lose this Sunday. And it's a fact of life. There can only be one Super Bowl champion. And, as the confetti is raining down in Hard Rock Stadium, and they're playing We Are the Champions, and the winning team is celebrating, and the losing team is heading off the field with their heads hung low, and, Joe Buck, who's going to be calling the game, is going to say that old cliche that gets said, I swear, every single year towards the losing team. They're a good team. They'll be back. And you know what? In the moment of defeat, those words could really be comforting to heartbroken fans that, you got a really good team. You'll be back here someday. But you know what the cold reality of the situation is? It's probably not true. That team will probably never be back. Really think about this here. Let's get real, all right? Really think about it. Because I know Tom Brady made it look so daggum easy going to 9 Super Bowls in his entire career. But you look past that, and what do you see? You see Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks a lot of people have ever seen. Only 1 Super Bowl appearance. You see Drew Brees and Sean Payton of the aforementioned New Orleans Saints. Only 1 Super Bowl appearance. They said, don't worry about the Carolina Panthers. They'll be back after they lost in the Super Bowl to end their 15-1 season. The team's loaded. They got Cam, and Ron Rivera's a great coach. Don't worry, they'll be back. And guess what? Look at them. They've never even gotten close to replicating that success, have they? They said, don't worry. The Atlanta Falcons will be back after that debacle 3 years ago where they blew the 28-3 lead. Don't worry. They'll be back. And that time, since that, 3 years, they've only had 1 winning season, haven't they? They said, don't worry. The Jacksonville Jags almost got to the Super Bowl, but they'll be back. They've been a shell of themselves since then, haven't they? So when you hear them say that this Sunday, when they say, don't worry, that team will be back, don't believe them, because those words ring hollow. Because, let's get real, there are no guarantees in football, just like in life. There is no guarantee either team will ever be back here again, even if they win, despite their talent or coaching or anything they have. NFL history is littered with the stories of good to even great teams that never make it back to this point. I mean, look at Brett Favre, for crying out loud. One of the greatest quarterbacks ever. He went to 2 Super Bowls early in his career in the late 90s. Won one of them, lost the other. Never, ever got back to that point. Never, ever, 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 ever. Just shows you how hard it is to get here. Just to get here. That's what makes the Super Bowl so special. It truly is one of the hardest things to attain in all of sports because it's so damn hard just to even get to it, which makes losing it all the more heartbreaking. I'm a firm believer that losing the Super Bowl is more painful and hurts more than losing any other game in football. To come so close to obtaining the glory and winning it all, the big game, to come that close and to end up on the short end of the stick, that's rough, man. That's real rough. There are so many quotes and stories and books out there from former coaches and players who, came up on the short end and lost in the Super Bowls that they went to. And every single one of them will tell you that it lingers with you. It'll stick to you and it'll haunt you and it'll keep you up at night. You will lose sleep about it 20 years later. It just does that to you. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, these are 2 very good even great teams. There is no debating that. However, let's get real. There are no guarantees in life, just like in football. This could very well be the one and only Super Bowl appearance for Patrick Mahomes, or Jimmy GQ. I know, sexy nickname, am I right? I know it sounds far-fetched, especially saying that about Patrick Mahomes. This could be his only Super Bowl appearance. I know, saying that about a guy with that much talent, it feels just downright insulting to say, but it could be true. So let's get real. The winning team will be remembered forever and etched into history. And the losing team will be remembered as just a footnote. And that pain could last a lifetime. So to the winning team, whoever wins this Sunday, congratulations. You earned it. You earned your place in history. Props. Bravo. For the losing team, I just hope that one day you can come to peace with what happens this Sunday. That's why on Super Bowl Sunday, you got to make your most. Because there's no guarantee. This could be your one and only shot at obtaining a Super Bowl ring. Being remembered forever. It's your one opportunity, man. Don't blow it. That was Let's Get Real, people. Yay! Super Bowl edition. Here, a round of applause. I can't clap because I'm holding a microphone. Yay! Thank you. Like I said, it turned out kind of well, didn't it? Despite being written at like 10 a.m. and hopped up on Big Red. I know that was a long and rambling thing, but that was Let's Get Real. I told you we would see it again one day, and it came back. Now, had to take a swig of water because my throat was dry. Oh my goodness. It's finally time for the moment all you peoples out there have been waiting for. It's time for the final NFLandU podcast preview of the season. Before we get into the preview, I want to tell a story. It's an interesting story. You've probably heard it a couple times this week, but I like the story, so I want to retell it. Defensive tackle D Ford. He plays for the 49ers. And if you're thinking, who the heck is D Ford and why are we talking about him? You're going to remember why here in a quick second. D Ford signed a deal with the 49ers in this past offseason. He played in 11 games this year. Got 6.5 sacks and played pretty well for the most part. Yeah, played pretty solid. But here's the thing. D Ford used to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. He played there for 5 seasons. In fact, he was on their roster last year. And if you're a Chiefs fan, this is the moment where you need to close your ears and just stop listening. Because in the fourth quarter of last year's AFC Championship game, there was a third down. It was either third or fourth down. Patriots had the ball. They're driving. And the Chiefs defense makes a big stop. It's very late in the game. This stop could potentially win the game for the Chiefs and send them to the Super Bowl. But there's a flag. Refs say offsides on the Chiefs defense. Who's the offsides called on? Defensive tackle D Ford. That penalty keeps the Patriots drive alive. They end up scoring. And then eventually, Patriots go on to win that game in Arrowhead and win the AFC Championship game. And the Chiefs leave heartbroken. Now you fast forward a year later, and the Chiefs finally punch through the Super Bowl. And who's on the opposing roster? Defensive tackle D Ford. It really is funny how coincidences work out. You know, I love a weird coincidence thing or two. It really is weird. Now, we're in the Super Bowl. We're in the big game. So, you know, how we've done things normally throughout the years, I write a couple bullet points for each game, like 5 to 6, and then pick a winner. But we're going to mix things up for this one. We're going to get a little tricky in a big spot, like the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of years ago. We're going to get tricky and call it Philly. We're going to do a tail of the tape for the Super Bowl, because I think that's the best way to talk about these two teams. So, we're going to compare them by position, from quarterback all the way to coaching. Sound fair to everybody? Because that's what we're doing. We're going to start first with quarterback. And then we'll tally up the scores and go from there. Quarterback position. I think it's all fair, and it will not stun anybody, that for the quarterback position, we'll take the Chiefs' Patrick Mahomes. Dude's been playing on fire. There's no way to get around that. He is on a postseason tear that has been unheard of throughout the annals of NFL history. It is just absurd, it's unnatural, and it's downright beautiful, and I love watching it. Now, Chris Wessling from the Around the NFL podcast said on his show on Thursday that if Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl and wins the MVP award, then he will have set a new gold standard for NFL quarterbacks having a postseason run. Because then you would have to look at it as, hey, he had that insane comeback versus the Texans. Hey, he also had a comeback versus the Titans. And then he topped it off by beating a really great defense in the 49ers in the Super Bowl and won the MVP award. It would be an all-time great postseason run, is what I'm trying to say. And he's just on that kind of tear. And as much as I love this 49ers defense, and I really do, they've been one of the premier defenses this entire year. There's no way that they're going to keep Mahomes silent in this game. He's going to put up some numbers. He just is. To what extent? Not sure, but he's going to put up numbers. So in the quarterback category, give me Mahomes and the Chiefs. Next up, running back position. Running backs. You got to go with the 49ers, all right? You know, even without Tevin Coleman, and I know the injury report that came out today said nobody on the 49ers is hurt. There's still some doubt on whether their running back Tevin Coleman's going to play or not, so that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. But even without Tevin Coleman, the 49ers run game is just so unique and deadly, and it's not necessarily because of the running backs. It's because of Kyle Shanahan and the coaching. He's going to coach and scheme something crazy up that's going to get these guys numbers. He just is. And that's what I think the weak point of that Kansas City defense is stopping the run. And I know they stopped Derrick Henry 2 weeks ago, but I still think that's the weak point of their defense is stopping the run. So, running back, give the edge to the 49ers. So we're tied at 1 apiece. Wide receiver position. Which team has the better wide receivers? Oh, for this one, you got to go Chiefs. Chiefs, no doubt. Chiefs have arguably the fastest wide receiver core in the entire league with, Tyreek Hill, oh God, I don't know why I always butcher that young man's name. You know who I'm talking about. Sammy Watkins, when he decides to be healthy and stay in a game, they have fast guys coming out the wazoo, is what I'm trying to say at. And it should be, just a track meet down there. Now, I know it's going to be like February 2nd when the Super Bowl is this Sunday. And it's not going to be, blazing summer heat in Miami, but it's going to be slightly warmer than maybe these guys are used to playing in February. And you're putting the fastest wide receiver core out there, and you're going to ask these wide receivers not these wide receivers, these defensive backs to cover them on, we're going to assume, like 50 pass attempts, because let's be brutally honest, the Chiefs don't run the ball a lot. They don't. So, in the heat, I've been to Miami. It can be very muggy. In the heat and the mugginess, maybe that speed starts to take a toll on that San Francisco defense. That, maybe they can hold them back in the first half, but when it gets to the fourth quarter and they're zapped from the heat, maybe, I know it's not like a lot of heat, but maybe it's just slightly warmer than they're used to having it. Maybe those speedy wide receivers finally break one loose in the fourth quarter. So, wide receiver position. Give the advantage to the Chiefs. Next up, tight end position. Oh, we got a big time matchup in this one. And I'm going to call an audible. I'm going to say this one ends in a draw. Because these are the two premier tight ends in this league. Travis Kelce of the Chiefs and George Kittle of the 49ers. These two are arguably the best pass catchers on their entire rosters, respectively. And they do the majority of the work. And it's just so unique to watch them. They're great pass catchers. They're great blockers. They're do-it-all tight ends. I mean, for crying out loud, Pro Football Focus said that George Kittle, the 49ers tight end, was their highest-rated player in the 2019 season. That's how good that man played this year. He has been on fire, and so is George Kittle. He caught 3 touchdowns in the divisional round. I don't know why I said AFC Championship game. In the divisional round. It should be an absolute joy watching these two men go to work. In fact, I think both of these guys are probably going to get close to over 100 receiving yards apiece in this game and probably catch a touchdown apiece. I really think they're going to be the main focal points of both offenses. So in that category, we're going to give it a draw to each one because they're just two great tight ends. You can't pick a winner and a loser in that one. Defense. Oh, you got to give it to the 49ers, man. I mean, come on. They've had one of the premier defenses in the entire league, as I already mentioned. For the vast majority of the season, this defense has been playing solid football. And that Chiefs defense is much improved from last year. They can get stops when needed. Their secondary has been a little suspect in the postseason. You know, they had the not so hot games against, the Texans and the Titans. They didn't play their best football is what I'm trying to say. But I think the secondary for the Chiefs is their strong point on defense. I really do think that's the best part of their defense is that secondary. But as a whole, the 49ers defense, it's just too much to handle. That secondary is good. They were the best pass defense secondary in the entire league this year in terms of yards given up. And that defensive line, you just got first-round draft pick after first-round draft pick after first-round draft pick after first-round draft pick on that defensive line. It's like pick your poison. Which one is going to get to you first? It's just ridiculous who's trying to stop you. It almost makes you want to cry. There's just so much to handle. So while the Chiefs' defense is also solid, it's not as good as the 49ers. I'm going to give the edge to the 49ers in that category in defense. Last one up, coaching. And since I went with a draw earlier, I have to pick a winner here. And as much as I love Andy Reid, it pains my heart to do this. I go to Kyle Shanahan in the coaching category. Now, I know you're going to hear that and it sounds like a swipe at Andy Reid. I promise it's not. Hear me out. I just think that the schemes and strategies that Kyle Shanahan can draw up for the 49ers week to week and how it changes so much, based on week to week, is so unique. Not to say that Andy Reid doesn't do that with Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator, because they do. They also change things week to week. But I just think Shanahan does it more. And it's just so unique and special to just watch him go to work. It's just so, it's hard to really describe it unless you've seen it because it's just so unique. That's the only phrase that comes to mind. Plus, I really think Kyle Shanahan is out to prove a point because he was the offensive coordinator for that Atlanta Falcons team that blew that 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. So he's out to, put some respect on his name in this one. I really think he's going out to prove a point. He's learned his lesson. So I'll give the edge to the 49ers in that category. So that's the end of the tale of the tape. And if you were keeping score at home, the final score of Tale of the Tape, that's 3-2 in favor of the 49ers. Interesting, am I right? Really, really interesting. Yeah. But we're not done previewing this game. The reason why I did Tale of the Tape is because it's really hard to talk about a game plan or preview for these two teams because, like I said, they change so much week to week. What you saw in, the divisional round in the AFC Championship game, there is a very strong possibility we will not see any of that this Sunday. It's just who these two coaching staffs are. I think it was Deion Sanders. I think he was interviewing Kyle Shanahan on Media Night. And, they were talking about the game plan. And Shanahan said, yeah, we're still finalizing stuff. And there's stuff we won't have done until like Friday that we won't solidify. And I threw Sanders off because this is just two coaching staffs that are drawing up plays and, putting stuff into the playbook up until kickoff, up until probably a couple hours before the game. That's just how creative and unique that these two coaching staffs are. And it's honestly pretty awesome to watch because I love that. I love guys that are just, going outside of the box. They're not leaving any stone unturned. They're trying to give their team the best chance possible to win. And they're not just going to come out and run the same old thing. They're going to mix it up and they're going to get unique. They're going to bust out whatever it takes to win this game. And I love that. It makes my football nerd heart beat so fast and full of love. I just love seeing it. So, it's easy to say, oh, the 49ers are going to run the ball. Well, we don't know that. We don't know what Kyle Shanahan's drawing up in his kooky laboratory. He might come out and make Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball 40 times. We don't know. Now, I know I just went on a long-winded rant talking about, how it's so hard to predict, but I think I can see how either team could win the game. For the 49ers, let's start with them. Like I said earlier, I think the weakness of the Kansas City defense is still their run stop. And I know they held Derrick Henry out for under 100 yards, but they were selling out to stop him. They can't really afford to do that in this game. When you got George Kittle and Emmanuel Sanders and Deebo Samuel out there catching passes, and Jimmy Garoppolo has shown that he can sling it. You really can't afford to just sell out to stop Raheem Mostert and maybe Tevin Coleman if he plays. You can't afford to do that. Their second, because like I said, the Chiefs' secondary is their strong point. But I think if you run on them a bunch with this unique, I know I've described them like this before, your King Ghidorah three-headed monster-like run game, I think you'll be fine. It'll throw them off, Get them going sideways. It's not that hard, people. So that's my advice for the 49ers. You're gonna have to run the ball, but don't be afraid to throw it with Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't get away with only throwing 8 passes in this game. You can't. You're probably going to throw it closer to 20. Much like a normal game, but still run a hefty amount. A nice little balance. For the Chiefs, here's how they win this game. Remember towards the end of the regular season, and people were starting to question that 49ers defense? It was kind of like, it was around like November-ish. I think, if I'm doing my math correctly, it was because they played a couple teams and they didn't do so hot on defense. They gave up a bunch of points and yards. And we speculated on the show and we came up with a theory why we thought this 49ers defense was struggling against some specific teams. Namely, the Cards and Seahawks. They played 2 versus the Cardinals and then 1 versus the Seahawks in a very close span of time. And we came up with a theory on why they struggled in those games. Because those 2 teams in those 3 games had one thing in common. They had a mobile quarterback. Not just a mobile quarterback. I'm talking Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson. And the thing about Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson is that they don't just run around to extend the play. They can run and gain yards. And you know what the Chiefs have? They got a dang mobile quarterback, don't they? Titans learned that the hard way, didn't they? In the AFC Championship game as Mahomes ran on them and scored that touchdown. So what I'm saying is run Patrick Mahomes. Not a bunch. I'm not saying he should have like 20 rushes, but a fair amount. Enough to throw this 49ers defense off. Keep them off balance. It's worked before. We saw it worked with Kyler Murray twice and Russell Wilson once when they played in San Francisco. So we've seen it work. So why shouldn't it work this Sunday? So that's my advice to the Chiefs. Run Mahomes a fair amount. Have him throw the ball 50 times and then have him run like 10. Gain like 50 yards. Keep them off balance, keep the chains moving. That sort of thing. Now, that's what I said about the game plans. And that's how I think both teams could win. It's time to give my prediction. And I've had people asking me since the championship weekend, who do you think's going to win this game? I keep saying, I don't know yet. Haven't made my decision. Don't know yet. Still thinking about it. Don't know. Still letting it marinate. And I waited, and Wednesday morning finally came to a conclusion that I thought, you know what? That sounds fair. I'm ready to get behind that team. And as many of my friends know who talk to me about football, I have, at more times than often, picked a big game based on my heart. Meaning who I want to win. Who I would like to see win. And you shouldn't do that. You should pick with your head. And meaning you should go with what your brain thinks, not what your heart thinks. And as all of you have known, as I've said it for weeks on this show, I want the AFC team, whoever it would end up being, to win. And it ended up being the Chiefs, and I want the Chiefs to win and to win it for Andy Reid. That's what I want. And I've been going back and forth on who I think would win for 2 weeks, and I kept telling myself, don't pick with your heart. Don't just go with the Chiefs because it's Andy Reid. Really, really think about it. And you know what? I've gone back and forth for 2 weeks, and I really think it could go either way. They've been calling it a coin flip game in the media, and I really think that's a true statement. I really, truly believe this game could go either way. However, I have finally come to terms with it, and I am picking the Kansas City Chiefs to win the game. And give me a final score 30-24. Give me an absolute classic Super Bowl. And we're going Chiefs to win it. And you know what? I wrote this out like that. And I said, okay, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with this pick. I'm ready to get behind this one. And then ever since I wrote that down Wednesday morning, I've been having doubt. And I've just been thinking, man, 49ers could really win this game. 49ers, I'm starting to think 49ers could win this game. But we're going with the Chiefs. We're picking the Chiefs to win it on this show. So, that's it for today's show. We're picking the Chiefs to win Super Bowl 54. Thanks for listening and enjoying our super duper mega awesome ultra mecha hyper Super Bowl preview show. I hope you enjoy the Super Bowl this Sunday. I'm truly excited for it. I really, really think it's going to be a great game. Especially after last year's snooze fest with the Rams and Patriots. Oh, that game was awful. We're owed a good, fun, tense, exhilarating Super Bowl. I'm running out of adjectives. We deserve fun. And I think this will be a fun one. And if it's not, and it's boring, and it's meh, I will be sad and I will cry for hours. And one last thing before I sign off. I almost forgot about this. I did write a piece on Medium last night about Super Bowls and one of my favorite Super Bowl memories that I've had in my life. It's on medium.com// I really don't remember. I don't have it written down. Hayden Vassar, if you want to go click on that article, is titled Super Bowl Memories. If you want, I'll tweet it out here in a little bit, so you can just check my socials at Hayden Vassar to go read it. If you want to, it'd mean a lot to me if you go check that out. Cheap plug, people. Cheap plug. And I will be tweeting throughout all Super Bowl Sunday. It's probably going to be like 30 or 40 tweets. It usually is. So you can follow me at Hayden Vassar to go check that out. And we'll have some laughs on social media. Make fun of some teams that are doing not too hot. So that's it for today's show. Next time we talk will be Monday, where we will recap everything involving Super Bowl Sunday. Super mecha awesome, super duper cool recap show on Monday. And I hope everybody has a fun Super Bowl Sunday. Have fun with your family, all this and that. And I'll talk to you Monday. Bye.